Let me first welcome Mr. Sriram Raghavendran. Okay. He is, if I may use the term, now veteran in the field of IT. He is currently serving as Assistant Vice President at Cognizant in Digital Vertical. His academic background is his engineer from the prestigious CIT, Coimbatore Institute of Technology in Tamil Nadu, in Coimbatore. After completing his engineering, he went to IIM Calcutta and did his postgraduate diploma in management there. Currently, he leads strategic transformation, which is shaping basically Cognizant Digital, which is the largest line of business in Cognizant. He started his career with Infosys, okay, when Infosys was like few hundred people, not even 1,000 people, okay, and he, growing with the IT industry, he has given him opportunity to incubate and grow business units, take on leadership roles in global delivery, pre-sales and consulting, across predominantly US, UK, and India. So he has very wide experience of running IT businesses, not just in India, but in US and UK. And I know he lived in US for a number of years, and also he had a stint in UK where he was heading most of Cognizant business in UK. So Sriram, we are really honored, and we are very pleased to have you. There is another aspect of Sriram's life which actually is very, very interesting, that he began the practice of heartfulness meditation at a very early age of 17, and has progressively experienced the benefits of integrating the spiritual and the material aspect in his life. He has been heartfulness trainer and a director of the Heartfulness Institute. He is passionate in promoting wellness and works with the organization to introduce the practice of meditation in the workplace. He has, under this umbrella, he has gone into multiple places, multiple areas, even for heartfulness meditation work, and instilled the practice of meditation in youth, in working organizations. So with this introduction, Sriram, I would like to kind of kickstart this discussion, with your reflection on what is happening, in business and in industry today, which direction it is going, where is it going, what do you say, what do you feel about it?
Thank you, Pravin. Thank you for that elaborate introduction. It's my real honor and pleasure to be part of this panel discussion. I mean, though the panel is only two. And it's always good to connect with students, right? It kind of takes me back and makes me, in spite of my bald head, feel a little young. And it's always good to connect, right? And I'm looking forward to the Q&A towards the end. So Pravin mentioned that when I started my career after my engineering, okay, I was a mechanical engineer by education, but the last of mechanical engineering that I touched was in my 4th year, right? After which I joined Infosys. That was my first job, the very first time that Infosys had come on campus. And at that time, nobody knew Infosys, right? I'm just telling this for a reason, that when I joined Infosys, there was probably less than 500 employees, 480 employees or something like that, right? And it was actually working from the 1st and 2nd floors of a particular building. Okay, the ground floor being a showroom, okay, for some consumer goods. Why I'm mentioning that is that, when I joined Infosys at the beginning of my career, I found that the IT industry was at its infancy. Nobody had any kind of even a wild guess or a clue as to what the IT industry, what kind of powerhouse it would become in the years to come, right? And I was just looking at a statistic, okay, a couple of years back, and I think it's about 10 lakh crores is, I think, what IT industry was earning in the year 2017-18, and a significant part of the GDP, right? Why I'm mentioning that in terms of, in this context of the question that Pravin, you asked, is that I find that, like, at this year, in this time, in this couple of years, right, we are exactly at the same inflection point to get on to the next wave, right? If the mid 90s was really the beginning of the start of the IT wave, I think we're at the beginning of what I would call, like, the start of a digital wave, right? For the last few years, like, a lot has been spoken about digital, but I think, like, it's really coming into bloom. It's still an early part of the bloom, right? Right now, I would say, right? And just in terms of kind of put things in comparison, right? IT was always meant to support business in its growth, right? The driver in an organization has always been business, has always been strategy, has always been competition, and how to sell our market our products and services, right? And IT, because the market, the business had to move in certain directions, IT was always seen to be a support function which can enable and support business to actually achieve its objectives, right? So it was a necessary, okay, support function, but then it was only a support function. The role of digital, okay, I mean, with this inflection in the last few years, what's happening, I would say, is that it's completely changing, right? IT and digital is no more a support function. Okay, digital is shaping businesses. What the products that companies are putting out in the market, what services we are offering them, and very simply put, how we are marketing these services to customers is completely changing, right? Let's take these three parts, right? And I'll just kind of start that off in terms of where industry is going. Okay. What products are being put out in the market, right? I mean, the products, like, are changing so much, okay, today. And these products, right, I think it could be across a range of industries. You could talk about life sciences. You could talk about healthcare. Okay, you could talk about insurance products. You could talk about automobile products. Okay, you could talk about banking and financial services products, right? And the kind of services that are being put out, right, is very, very, very different, right? And it's constantly changing because of the level of information that is getting fed back into the businesses, okay, by the digital platform. The last thing is in terms of how are these products being taken to the market, products and services, right? When I was doing my management education, and perhaps I think maybe they still run these courses on basic marketing management and marketing research and so on, right? Where the god of marketing, his book, Philip Kotler, okay, that used to be the gold standard, like, for marketing, right? In which we talked about segmentation of your market. You say you understand your market, you segment your market, you target your market, and then decide which market to pick and which market to promote, right? I think that's completely gone out the window, okay, in the last few years, right? No more are we talking about targeting and segmentation, right? Products and services are not being sold to entire segments of people, okay? It is today the segment is one person, and that is you, right? If you look at the way, like, you open Amazon and your sister opens Amazon, and let's say your mom opens Amazon, the three web pages will look very different provided you have precise profiles. And what's happening is that the amount of data that is being captured, okay, what kind of products do you browse, okay, what kind of products have you bought, what kind of products have you returned, where on the screen is your eyeball resting and for how long, okay, and what you click and actually look at the image to make it bigger to see, like, okay, the contours of that product, everything is being captured, okay, and the personal profile of enormous, I would call gargantuan proportions, being built up, and that is helping them almost design and provide exactly what you need. YouTube is making recommendations on what you need based on your personal profile. Google is giving search. I mean, if two people search on Google for something as arbit as cycle chains, you would get completely different answers, right? And the world is getting extremely personalized today, right? So how the world works, I mean, in one sense, I would say that we are moving away from a common world, which is in which we all live, to personalized world where my world is different from your world, right? And all this is being shaped by digital, right? In conclusion to that, right, in terms of where the world is moving, I would think that where we are today, right, is still the beginning of digital, right? Now, what has been proven is a certain number of possibilities in terms of what kind of products, what kind of experience can be created, right? And the market is wide open, okay, in terms of people, okay, smart people, like, who can think out of the box, okay, imagine what is it that will actually give that next level experience to the customer, and to design such products and services which would be marketed at an individual level, right? So that's really where the market is going. I think the market is absolutely wide open. I mean, I think I was very lucky to have gotten into the industry at a time, okay, where the market was just at an inflection point. And I think the same holds good for every one of you who are right now in education, okay, and because the market is absolutely wide open. And just remember this, right? If IT was X in terms of the size, digital is probably about 10x, okay, in terms of the potential size, right? And the journey is just starting, right? So
Wow.
that's what I would say, Praveen, right, in terms of where the industry is going. Yeah.
Uh, all right. So just to kind of add, so one thing is very, very interesting notion which you have highlighted is earlier digital was, or the IT was subservient to the main business. Okay. And what should happen in IT was decided by the business. The business says, okay, we need this, and then IT will cook up the solution and offer that solution. And now this is like 180 degrees totally turn, where now digital is offering so much on the table that businesses are like trying to leverage on it, trying to figure out how we can use it to improve my services, do better, and as you said, being innovative, trying to give new services. So that's very, very interesting. That's very interesting. I also would like to add that in UPS, we are also trying to gear up, and we are also trying to add different things. We're trying to do multiple things so that we are able to address what you said, that even in academia, even in for education segment, there are now so many opportunities when we can use different things. So even in UPS, we are doing multiple things. For example, with existing courses, suddenly on 22nd March, everything stopped, and on 26th March onwards, we started online classes. I took my first online class on 26th March within 4 days. Okay, and thanks to the excellent infrastructure which I find in this university, in our university, is we already have a very sound, stable platform for delivering online classes. Blackboard Collaborate is a well proven and one of the oldest platform actually, and very sophisticated platform with very, very rich features. So we started taking online classes there. And even before we came onto this situation due to COVID-19 and all that, okay, from last year onwards, all our students had unlimited access to Coursera. Okay, and they could subscribe to enroll into any course, and they could do those courses. Okay, and of course there was no extra charges for it because university bought a complete institutional license from them. And it was not only available to students, it is also available to us as faculties, where if we need to sharpen our skills, we need to learn something new and all, we could log into that, and we could do that. Last night I just completed one specialization on Coursera for that matter. Okay. We already are all in the process, and this was even again before we started getting into this COVID situation. We are making our in-house studio where we can make in-house MOOCs, the massive online open courses. So getting a formal studio to record, soundproof and all that. And what I find very interesting in our university is that every year and two, we are sharpening the focus on the course. So we improvise the course grid every year. We introduce new courses. Like my students from last year, they have containerization and microservices and DevOps as a new course, which is like what we say in industry, bleeding edge technology. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect, which is even more interesting, that the university is making forays into new areas. They are giving new offerings. Okay, and those are like just at the horizon, where the industry is also coming up. So we, about a couple of years back, we already started School of Health Science. Okay. And this year we started school courses for new media. Okay. And very interestingly, smart agriculture. So we already have specialization in IoT and things like that, but we are getting into smart agriculture. Okay. And last but not the least, there is a huge focus on on online education, how to deal with technology. Everybody is getting trained on it. We are getting state of art tools and so on and so forth. So it's very interesting that what you're saying, what is happening in industry, and what as an industry expert you expect from an academic or an educational organization to kind of raise to the occasion. As it appears to me, like we already started running even before the need was there. And UPS was one of the pioneer in introducing specialization in bachelor's degree, for example. We are the first one in the country to do so. So we are kind of continuing the tradition. I am reminded of a very interesting joke which my final year student posted on a social media. He said, while the other institutes are figuring it out how to take online classes, okay, my university has already taken the classes and declared the result. Okay, we are the first one to complete online classes and made results for our final year students and published it so that they have no hiccups in joining their organizations. So that's where it's very interesting that we are also kind of gearing ourselves and trying to be even ahead of the times where we are in. But to talk about where we are getting into, okay, let's focus on the situation which is caused because of COVID-19, and specifically in which direction the businesses are going. What do you think? Which industries will see a surge? Where the advances will be?
Yeah. Interesting. Uh, Definitely the situation in which we are in is unprecedented, right? Nobody living now, or very, very few people living now, would have experienced the Spanish flu and the consequences, right? So it's almost about 100 years. But it's as if comets come every once in 100 years, right? Like Halley Comet once in 75, their version of the flu also seems to come, right? And it's completely disrupting. You're talking about digital disrupting, and the COVID, if this is not disruption, I don't know what it is, right? It's completely changing the way everything in the world, right? And we're seeing a definite impact on businesses, okay? And at Cognizant, right, where we service all industries, we're seeing that some industries are hit very, very hard, okay, and other industries are not as hit as hard, and some industries are really beginning to thrive, okay, in the new normal, right? For example, if you take travel and hospitality, right, you're talking about airlines, okay, you're talking about cruises, you're talking about vacations, you're talking about hotels, right? It's hit very, very badly, right? And because pleasure is out of the window, okay, when situations like this comes in, right? And if you take retail, for example, right, the base retail, right, of groceries and, like, basic necessities, okay, and you're talking about consumer goods, okay, what household items, right, that is not just doing well, it's doing extremely well, right? And where there is a lot of change is with those companies is in the supply chain. How do you reach these products and services, like, or products, I should say, like, to customers with a minimal of disruption, okay, in the current COVID scenario, right? E-commerce is phenomenally on the rise, right? I mean, companies are really looking at, like, how to continue to service, okay, customers, right? So e-commerce is definitely on the rise, right? Whereas if you take luxury retail or consumer durables, right, things which you don't need now, okay, it could be a TV, it could be a washing machine, right, or those luxury items, right, automobiles, right, things like that, like, there's definitely, like, got hit quite badly, okay, even apparel for that matter, right? I just heard that JC Penney, right? I mean, one of the marquee logos in the US, right, is filing for bankruptcy. You would never think, okay, I mean, that something like JC Penney or Macy's, like, I mean, would have tough times. But they've been closed for 3 months now, right? You talk about manufacturing industries, you see the same scenario, right? I mean, the more luxury items, industrial goods, right, high-end automobiles, right, I mean, are all seeing a recession, whereas basic manufacturing, okay, meaning is doing reasonably well, right? Banking financials, I would say, is on a holding pattern. right? And you see that more and more banking has been moving towards online and digital, right? I mean, you've seen the rise of Paytm and Google Pay and Ola Money and all that in the India, right? And India has been doing quite well, okay, in getting on the online and digital bandwagon. And so whatever are the basic services, right? I mean, again, there is a lot of innovation happening, okay, that with people's movement being restricted, how do you continue to offer your services, okay, to the people from where they are, right? And but whereas some of the other things, okay, on the high end of the game, like, you know, is again on a holding pattern. Insurance is on a holding pattern, but we see a tremendous boost, like, you know, in life sciences and healthcare space, right? I mean, from a drug manufacturing, you know, vaccines, generics, okay, and a drug discovery, you know, how much investment is going into drug discovery and healthcare, right? Obviously, everybody is worried about insurance, right? New models are emerging, right? And there is a real focus and real growth, okay, in this space. At the bottom of it all, like, you know, not looking at it by industry, but really looking at it from a technology perspective, right? Anything digital, okay, in the current economy, again, you know, tying to what you mentioned, Praveen, okay, anything, any way of digital delivery, okay, is really accelerating, right? And Zoom, for example, right? Online ways by which, like, you know, we get together, you know, how courses are being given online, okay, how proctored assessments can be done online, you know, how college is going to actually deliver their education online. You are going to see, like, you know, a huge wave of disruption in education, right? 10% of US GDP comes from education, I'm told, right? And a lot of that is contributed by Chinese students and Indian students and whatnot, right? And what are the Rutgers and Harvard's going to do, okay, if they're not, if Indians are cannot fly to the US, right? You can be sure, like, you know, that education, which has been very stable and the model has been quite settled, okay, is going to get ruptured, okay, over the next several years, right? So, and what you talked about, right, in terms of online classes, we're seeing it in the industry as well, right? In IT, where I work, okay, within a couple of weeks, right? I mean, most of the large players, not just the company I work for, I think we had close to about 90% of our employees working from home and productive, right? And whereas some customers were more amenable and some customers were not, okay, everybody had to open up their doors because that's the only way we could keep services going. And today, okay, we just had a insight coming from several companies that they're definitely seeing pockets of efficiency and productivity going up, okay, for people working from where they are.
Wow.
Customers are very happy because earlier, right, I mean, let's say you could get one call in the morning, but now, like, people are able to connect with their people and employees and associates who are working and have calls, okay, there's much more face to face, and though it's digital interaction, a lot more interaction happening, right? So there is a, and I think, I mean, the big question, right, is that by the time we get out of COVID, we don't know if it's a couple of months or a couple of years. Okay, time will tell. But what is the model going to look like, right? How are people going to work, okay, in the industry? How much are people going to commute to work, right? I think it's going to have a very, very big effect, like, you know, particularly for women. Today, you talk about, that's been a concern because at some point in time, like, you know, I mean, the rise and the possibilities of women growing in a career, okay, meaning has not been as equal as it should be. But with people working from home, okay, given the kind of different kinds of responsibilities that each of the gender holds, I think we're very positive, okay, that more and more women will not only be able to continue with their career, but do equally well, okay, and grow with the times, right? So change is, they say, is the only constant, right? But how we are able to take the change head on and how we don't panic, but how we see an opportunity within that to emerge stronger, okay, determines how much each one of us, whether we are individuals or whether we are organizations, grow. And that's where the real possibility is, right? So Praveen, I would ask you, right? I mean, so there are many things from an education perspective. Obviously, you talked about, let's say, like, you know, offering classes online within 4 days, right? So that's what we call the immediate response to a disruption, right? How do you see the long term playing out, right? I mean, for example, the new students, are they going to be able to come to college and join, okay, over the next year, right? Are you going to offer things online? How is your assessments going to happen? How do you see, okay, education? I'm not just talking about UPES, that's at one level, right? How do you see education itself morphing and let's say the potential end game of education in the post-COVID world?
Very interesting question, and we are all like brainstorming and thinking how this would go and all that. The first kind of given, or the first broader framework is we can do what we are allowed by government. Okay, so the complete if you notice, a lot of education, a lot of industries are opening, everything is opening, but most of this unlock 2.0, 3.0, you see they say schools and colleges will remain closed because nobody wants to risk their children's life, right? So that is something which is given, that as and when they allow us, we can get the students in the campus. For us, from tomorrow onwards, faculty is in a staggered fashion will start going to the university in UPS, and I would imagine similar things would happen at least in non-red zones. But having said that, what I see is that the ability to impart education irrespective of physical presence in a class would become imperative. It become mandatory. It becomes necessary. It will become necessary. Okay, and I know that there have been discussions happening in our university also as to can we start the next semester remotely. Okay, and going through this experience of doing this thing already at a zero notice, practically, and doing almost 30-40% of the course online and conducting exams and publishing results, kind of give us a good confidence. Having said that, there are a lot of other aspects which comes into online education. Okay, and as you are saying that it's a digital which is driving the industry. Similarly, as soon as I get into online platform, then I am offered with so many new possibilities. I know there are some restrictions which come on the side. Okay, but then there are new possibilities which come in front of me. And actually, as teachers, as academic institutes, we are actually learning to use those. Okay, we have just completed some University of Irvine course. You see at Irvine, University of California at Irvine course, and how to impart virtual education. Okay, how to use multimedia technologies. Okay, how to create videos. Like otherwise, teachers, they don't have to learn how to create videos. Okay, how to leverage on existing platforms. How to conduct breakaway discussions in a running class using a platform like Blackboard, and so on and so forth. So what is happening is that right now, all said and done, the safety, security, and to some extent fear, okay, is the driving force. So this will keep us like in this situation for at least few months to come, if not years. Okay, so we are gearing up on that, and this will become imperative. And what I feel is that if there was a roadblock, if there was a mental block in people's mind that online education is not good, no, we can't do this, people have to be face to face, in this situation will force us to cross that hump, and then there will be a natural acceptance coming into the academia that yes, we can do this. Okay, and then I think the whole game plan will change. Okay, and this will offer, I mean, a plethora of possibilities, so many possibilities. We can offer specialized courses to anybody, anywhere. Okay, we can make students connect from diverse background and work together, and bring even more interesting outcome from their education. So that's where I think the academics is going, and this is how I believe we are going to get into
My
academics.
only that's wonderful, to hear. My only 2 cents here is that, education, like industry as well, right?
Mhm,
To embrace change
mhm,
and to look at opportunities ahead of the game
mhm,
and not wait for the change to happen. Okay, is always being proactive. Okay, is really what will make all the difference.
mhm,
At some point in time, everybody will need to
mhm,
uh, get into a combination of online education. Okay,
mhm,
and because at some points in time, right, online education could be very effective. We've seen Khan Academy, for example, right? It's been a total disruption, right? And now it's getting into CBSE and think it would phenomenally disrupt the way okay, education is offered in the country, right, over a period of time, right? So I think the sooner that we are able to embrace and move ahead, okay, I think we could create a huge make
I
a huge
had a short question and then a longer one after that. Is do you want to touch upon, like, specifically if Cognizant is doing anything to address the social, business, and technological changes in your organization in the current situation?
Yeah, I think the way we're looking to work, I mean, we are, I think the industry itself is looking at what is the future of work model.
Mhm.
Where do people work from? How much do they work from, right? I mean, traditionally, right, I mean, the industry, we've been working from large, what do you call SECs or STPIs, and it's like huge high rises and so on, right? And in Bangalore and cities like that in particular, people travel 1 hour to work one way, 2 hours to work one way, right? Hey, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? Is that really worth it, right? And with telecommuting, being people being working from home, again, not everybody can work from home. There's something where people will need to work from office, okay, be it data security or you're working with hardware devices as a team, or a person just out of college, right? I mean, they need to get a feel for what a team is, what an organization is, what the work is, what a client is, right? And I don't see people working from day one from home, right? But soon enough, once we've understood the ecosystem, you become part of the ecosystem, we should be able to do a lot of work from where we are, right? And just like you said, right, people from everywhere can come together, right? And you're running a virtual class. There's no reason, right, why the future work model should not look like, that we might have. I mean, I'm hypothetically talking here, right? 80 people working from Dehradun, okay, from their homes, or if need be, they can come to a WeWork kind of business center,
Mhm.
okay, and there could be people in Jaipur, and I mean, where we don't have offices today, right? And again, now these days, right, in the new world, we're talking about when the new project comes in, we're not talking about whether we should have the offshore development center in Chennai or Bangalore or whatever, right? We could take 2 people from the US, 3 people from London, 4 people from Manila, and 16 people from India across places, right? And create a virtual team and deliver. Right? You're looking at providing the best people for the job, and not just looking at who are the people who are co-located, and within that, let's pick up the best, right? So I think, right, I mean, there's a lot of scope for optimization. Okay, while this is a disruption, this is kind of in my world, meaning it is really remove the constraints, and you need to think outside the box. Okay, that's the only way we can make changes. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So the long question now.
Yeah.
So, Sriram, as I was saying in your introduction, that you have large international experience in industry. You have lived and worked in US and UK, and I know, I think you have interacted with customers probably in all continents. With your experience, number of years of experience. On the other hand, you're I wouldn't say it, I mean, it's a false statement. You are equally involved in heartfulness and helping youth prepare for life, and if I may use the term, internally. So can you share your experience and on how this internal training of mind and heart aids students to become ready for industry?
Okay.
Any experience on that?
Okay. That's the with where the world is going, right? I mean, I'll extend the thoughts, right, with some specific examples, and within that context, talk about where a human being, how we can navigate the new world, right?
Mhm.
I mean, when I'm talking about disruption, right? I mean, this is happening everywhere, right? Let me just take the example of automobiles, right? I mean, this is a classic industry case that I would have, right? Where for 100 years, okay, the IC engine, the internal combustion engine. See, I'm forgetting my mechanical engineering so much. Okay, I mean, nothing has changed, right? Just cars have gotten slightly prettier. Okay, but pretty much what's actually happened in an automobile, nothing has changed. We've come almost the curve had flattened. Okay, in terms of innovation, right? And the huge disruption that's happened in the last 5 or 6 years, okay, in the automobile space is again digital, right? Tesla,
Tesla.
right? And now there are a few more companies that's happening here, right?
Yeah.
So Tesla is not just about electric cars; it's also about the electronic car, right? I mean, the everything about Tesla is software, Okay, it's not about hardware, right? There was a science novel in which I read that, I mean, a small girl, right? I mean, it's science fiction, okay, where she looks at her dad's watch, okay, and say, what is this? Oh, it shows the time. And she asks, like, why do you need hardware when you can do it with software? Right? And that is like, it really hits you hard, right? Why do you need an equipment that only shows time, right? Whereas this phone of mine, like, it can perform 1,000 functions, and you can configure it to perform 1,000 more functions, right? So Tesla, right? I mean, if you just look at it, it is enormously different. It is not actually a car company, right? Its valuation is the highest in the automobile sector, but it's really a digital company, right? And every single, a normal car today, I'm talking about, like, companies like Ford and Nissan, right? I mean, that is also becoming more and more electronic. Okay, and can you guess, how many sensors are there in a car, okay, which a normal car, okay, gathers data. Okay, today's generation vehicles, right, there are about 3,000 sensors in a car. I'm not talking about Tesla. I'm talking about a car, like, which is a new generation car, right? And the electronic motherboard, okay, it gathers that data, okay, and it does a lot of computation, like, with whatever motherboard is there, right? But with Tesla, right, every single data, and this is a new generation, digital generation car, right? Every single data is centralized. So imagine the amount of data, right? I mean, it is said that at least 3 years back, right, they'd already collected 1 billion miles driving miles data, okay, about about cars, from Tesla cars, right?
Wow.
And just imagine the amount of data that's getting generated. So you're talking about AI, you're talking about ML, right? And the amount of data that gets generated, right? Imagine the kind of possibilities of, 1 million people driving, okay, over 1 million miles, right? And the kind of data, the kind of use cases, the kind of patterns when accidents happen, right? There was a fatal case that happened, right, with when somebody did not heed and left it on auto drive, right? And the person and the car got into an accident, the guy died, right? And these kind of car accidents happen every day, okay, outside, right? But we don't learn from it, right? They say, like, a continuous learning system is one, like, where you do a mistake once and the system learns,
Interesting.
right? And you don't need to do it again, right?
Mm.
And with humans, if the guy dies, like, I mean, another guy on another road in another city, right, might do the same mistake, right? And here, what you're having is, since the data is centralized, okay, and once, like, such errors happen, it can be corrected and it never need to happen again, right? So the amount of AI, the amount of ML, like, I mean, the learning is really systemic, right? And it's completely changing the way, okay, changing the way, like, we live in this world, right? But what's interesting is that, like, right now, like, Tesla is still in their inception, right? They're still struggling to manufacture enough cars in a month and so on, right? The real business of Tesla, in my view, has not happened, right? Once, I mean, I see it like, like an iPhone or an Android, right? What they provided is a platform, and people can create applications on that platform, right? And you can create thousands of applications, right? And each application can actually monetize and you can service. Now imagine, right? I mean, if Tesla, okay, the kind of data that it gets from its customers, it makes it available on openware, and okay, people like us can actually look at the data, come out with use case scenarios, and put together, okay, and monetization opportunities, right? Hey, your one tire is weak, like, there is a car station coming next by, you can change the tire and they'll give you a discount, right? And can I drive right there instead of going straight, because you
Wow.
might get a flat 100. I mean, and these are the kind of opportunities, and if they open it up, they don't need to write the code, right? I mean, it can be crowdsourced, like, where people can write the code, right? And this is the kind of direction in which it's really crowdsourcing. It's really like people who can bring about that change. That's just one example, right? If I take banking, right? I mean, the traditional institutions are like dinosaurs, right? It's really falling by the wayside, right? There's a beautiful pictorial, you can look it up on the internet, right? That a bank typically offers like, 80 or 100 services, right? But every one of those services, there are like 20 startups which is chipping away in terms of lending, in terms of payments, in terms of loans are being replaced by peer-to-peer loans, right? Mortgages, okay, there are smarter, people giving mortgages, right? And they get much better interest rates, right? I mean, payments, okay, we already talked about payments, right? There is so much of innovation that is happening, like, in the financial industry, right? Essentially, inefficient, right? Because intermediaries, right? They take money from you and they give it to me, and in the process, like, they subsist themselves, right? and intermediation, where you and I can actually have a direct conversation without the bank in between, right, creates very, very high levels of efficiency, right? So that's really like, in terms of what's the level of disruption, right? And this will continue, right? So to really, I mean, there are enough examples in the insurance sector, in the energy sector, the manufacturing sector, in the life sciences sector, right? So digital is disruption, digital equal to disruption, right? And what's happening and what will continue to happen for the next 15, 20 years is the pace of disruption is going to increase, right? Now, the big question, the second part of the question which you asked, Praveen, right? In terms of, it's all becoming very complex. They say we live in the VUCA world, right? It's volatile, it's complicated, okay? It's ambiguous, right? Uncertain. So how do we live and remain sane in this world? Okay, this is the big question, right?
Wow.
And if people like us, struggle with new technologies that's coming up, right? What about the person on the street, right? How are they going to actually manage and make the world itself, right? And this is where I get my personal experience, right? Because on my day job, is in the IT industry, right, which is changing at breakneck pace. But at the same time, I've you had mentioned, right? I had started the practice of meditation for myself. I chanced into it. I didn't know why I started it, but my own inner experience seemed to say that, hey, there is something here. Continue. It seemed to encourage me forward. Over a period of time, right now, my point of view is that the more and more that you get outside of yourself, right, we need to go out and live in the world, right? I mean, but the more and more you go out, right, I mean, there is just a lot of pace, there's a lot of ambiguity, there's a lot of complexity, right? And there's a lot of chaos as well, right? But we need to balance this, okay, with how we live ourselves, right? And I find that, techniques like meditation, practices like meditation, right, where we take some time for ourselves, right, where we center ourselves, in this case in our hearts, right, and we're able to find within ourselves, a space, a happy space, space for peace, a space of stillness and balance. And I find that when we are able to manage ourselves and operate from a state of balance, we will be able to operate irrespective of the scenario, irrespective of the complexity, right? And it's like this, right? I'll give you a very simple situation, right? Let's say, you're in your family, okay, and this has got nothing to do with digital, right? And let's say somebody's having a heart attack, right? And it is a crisis, right? Now, how do you react and how do you respond to that crisis, right? Do you panic and you lose your head and you're running around? You go to the car and then find that you don't have your key. You come back and you run. You go to the halfway and you find that you don't have your wallet. You come back. I mean, do you act out of panic, or are you able to pause? Are you able to see what needs to be done in the best possible fashion and act with balance and inner stillness? Well, of course, emotions tend to overpower us. Okay, whether it's the external environment triggers inner emotions which overpower us. I find that when we are able to center ourselves and we're able to operate from a state of inner balance, right, we will be able to deal with any situation, right? Okay. And that includes, right, the increasingly digitally disrupted world outside. Okay, I think we can say, bring it on, right? I might not understand it, but I will have the head to stay on the road, and I will take the time that is necessary for me to learn, absorb, and not only protect but lead, right? So I think, external management, external leadership, I think really starts with inner management and inner leadership, right? And that is where I believe tools like heartfulness, right, meditation, and inner experiences and bringing about inner change. We're talking about managing change in the external world, right? And how we can really take on change, as giving leadership, right? I think the same thing applies in the inner world as well, right? It is all about being able to manage change within oneself, okay, and not just wait for change to happen, but bring about change, okay, and okay, because us ourselves, okay, and taking ourselves to a place where we are we are stable, we are emotionally stable, right? We have clarity and we can work with stability and balance. Okay, I think that can bring out the best in us, right? I think that, to me, I think that has been the mantra, and I find that with increasing complexity and ambiguity and uncertainty in the world, I feel that more and more we will need to learn to reach out and be able to experience the peace and the space and the pause within, without which I think we can easily go crazy in the external world because it's getting more and more chaotic, right? So that's the balance which I feel like, that we should look for. What's been your
Wow.
experience, Praveen? You want
Wow.
to tell us?
Wow. This is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can put any better than what you have already put. Okay, but my experience also chimes, resonates with what you are saying. Okay, I'm looking at also at time. So we have about 10, 12 minutes, and there are a number of questions, which probably are coming up. Uh, there is a first question which is on technical front, and I will take that up, and then I will probably, there are other questions which our marketing team is wants to take up. Then they will take it up. So this is a question from one student, Praveen. Okay, interestingly, his name is also Praveen. Sir, I'm non-CIT student of UPES. So the student background is not computers. Okay, and it's very interesting, Sriram, that you are here in a leadership position in a company which is an IT company with initially no background on CIT. Okay, so the question is, one second, background noise I need to avoid. I'll move location. All right. So let's see. Yeah. So the question is, I'm sorry about this. There is some spray going on in the background in our residential locality, so which I had to take care of. So the question is, I am non-CIT student of UPS. So which skill, software, language are required to get good job in any IT industry? Please suggest some AI, machine learning, data science career in any IT industry, which non-IT student can, CIT student can pick it up. So, are you there, Sriram? Could you hear my question?
Yeah. Okay. You want me to take that question?
Yeah.
I will say this, right? There is innovation happening everywhere, right? You got to make a decision, right? Whether you want to be remain in the core in your space. There is disruption happening there as well, right? And in some cases, like, you can get into pure computing as well, right? And frankly, it doesn't matter, okay, where you start. Okay, if you think you want to start with data science or data, okay, do that. With analytics, do that. Cloud computing, AWS, do that. Cyber security, do that, right? It is such a large space that it really doesn't matter where you start. But remember, you also have the option. For example, you take IoT, for example, right? IoT is about, like, Internet of Things, but then we find that chemical engineers, we find that mechanical engineers, we find that instrumentation engineers, okay, they can play the role of, they definitely have a role to play in IoT. And when they come in, right, I mean, we train them on basic Java, .NET, okay, and that's where they start, right? And but their understanding of instrumentation, their understanding of mechanical engineering, their understanding of chemical engineering, right, all of that, like, has a significant role to play, because it provides you the contextual information in which, like, you're introducing, like, in digital, and how you can improve, okay, then, and create new processes which didn't exist before, right? So there are always spaces today. I mean, I can recall, right, I mean, back in my days, right, in my generation, either you had to be an engineer or doctor, or, like, I for one thought that if I didn't make it into engineering, my life was dead. Today the world is wide open, right? And I think there's an opportunity everywhere, right? And when you start, right, I wouldn't be too picky and choosy in terms of which part of digital that you start with, right? Look at opportunities, right? And get started, right? Your journey and your experience will take you further, right? That would be my broad answer, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So nutshell, like, pick a thing, whether it is AI, ML, whether it is design, whether it is IoT, anything you can pick up, and then they can start in that direction. All right. Looking for any other questions? Is cyber security better or software engineering? There is an anonymous attendee who has asked this question. I'll take this up, Sriram, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
please,
Because this,
please
I
go ahead.
think, from a course point of view. So software engineering is a generic discipline, is a generic area where people learn about how to develop software. Whereas cyber security is a very focused area where you actually learn how to have security, network security, web-based application security, which is actually gaining very high focus. We in UPS have a specialization which is called CSF, okay, cyber security and forensic. So it actually focuses on forensic aspect of cyber security, which is very interesting. And what we have seen that the demand for those students out in the industry, and this is very empirical, this is very fact based, as I am saying, okay, the demand for these students in the industry is very, very high. This particular area, this particular field is gaining lot of focus. So it's not question of what is better, but it is what is better in what context. Okay, if it is very better, it is better in terms of technology and its application out in industry. Cybersecurity indeed is gaining focus. Whereas software engineering is a very generic field where you will get a very broad based understanding of how software is developed. Okay, so you have to take a pick, but from a employment, from a job, from a technology perspective, I'll be very frank and say that cybersecurity is actually getting a lot of focus.
I'd just like to extend that a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Praveen, right? I think sometimes I feel that, I mean, one of the a standard question that we get asked, like, when people come from colleges is that, but I want to work in Java. I want to work in this area, right? They've developed a passion, like, for one particular area, right? And then we find that, like, just I was just doing a skill map the other day. The
Mm-hmm.
number of technologies in industry that we operate just within the analytics space, okay, I think it numbered about 368 technologies, right? And these are platforms, okay, these are every one of those technologies, right? We do significant business in, right? And when students come from college and say, I want to work in this space, right? I mean, that is the world that they're aware of, but the actual world is much, much bigger, right? And I can give you one thing from my experience, right? Start anywhere, right? Please focus on depth, but also be open to opportunities coming in other related allied areas. And one thing I find is that, like, when we are too restricted, we tend to develop a very, very narrow view of things, right? But sometimes, right, getting a lot of knowledge about allied areas, right, it's really enriching, okay, and can really help your career, okay, as you move forward. I'm obviously talking about over the next 5 to 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
but start anywhere, does not matter, right?
Right, right, right. There is a very similar question which says, what is the difference between CS and CS? I would take it as cyber security, or I don't know if Sonu Singh has asked this question. Sonu means it to be computer science and IT as in information technology. So, Shriram, do you want to take this? Which is better? It
No,
says.
you go ahead.
Okay, so the reality out in the world is computer science. If you are saying computer science and IT, information technology, so no, then today's world it is actually used interchangeably. However, computer skill and philosophical and the theory of the subject as to how computers is built, how they are designed, and so on and so forth. Whereas information technology in principle is something to do with the application of information, of computer science into business, into the world out. Again, I would not pass a judgment on saying which is better, because without having the foundation, without having the theory of computer science, there is no IT. Okay. On the other hand, if you have all the theory and all the foundation of computer science, but there is no application, then the theory and the foundation is of no use. So it depends on what is your interest, what do you understand. And as Sriram is very success, very pointedly put, very nicely put, that you pick up what come your way and then try to go deep into it, and then try to slowly broaden your approach, by getting connected, by getting experience into affiliated field. I won't say which is good, which is bad, uh, but that's my take. Kajol, do you have any questions which you want to answer on this platform? Because we have just 2 more minutes left for our webinar. So I don't want you to miss if there is any question on your plate. All right. So I take the silence as that there is no more questions. Okay. So there is another one, and I think we are just 1 minute. So which branch will have there are questions now, but we have very little time. Let us see if the session will, allow us to continue. But cyber security, there are so many questions. I'm wondering, my question to Sriram, I'm a cyber security. What is the difference between CS and IT? Sir, which is better, BTech to roam around the world to improve knowledge and have best salary package now? So which branch will have more rise in job in future? I think this is a very, very interesting question, and this I was expecting that some student will ask. Okay, to me, I mean, there will be a huge surge in law, almost all branches of IT. Okay, be it AI, ML, be it cloud computing. Cloud will become essential for everything. IoT will become very important because of the sensors and how you process information from sensors. And Mr. Sriram gave an excellent example of automobile industry, which has thousands and thousands of sensors. Okay, analytics is another area which is going to become very big. All this will require networking and cyber security, so that will become very important. Okay, so it is not one field which is going to boom. I think in general, anything which enables you to work remotely and contribute, build things remotely, those technologies will improve. That those branches will see boom in job. Unfortunately, we are now out of time. So, however, reluctantly, the nice session going on, I will have to stop here, and I really offer my thanks to all the attendees who have come and joined. I saw there is a very good number of attendees who came online, and the questions. Uh, I will type my email ID in the chat box and probably offer it to all of you. If any of you want to ask these questions, you can forward it to me offline or email, and then I will try to get answers from Mr. Sriram or marketing or wherever I need to. You can of course reach out to our marketing, which is by default you can, and they will also be able to help you with the answers. You have so many meetings. I also know that for this particular webinar, you canceled 2 of your meetings. Okay, and we are very, very, grateful to you, thankful to you for taking out time from your, precious time out of this busy schedule, and took out time for our dear students to, share your knowledge, share your experience. And I hope we'll have more sessions like this in future, in coming years. Thank you very much, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Pravin. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.